2 buttons. Okay, well, we'll see how that works. Because I do this at the beginning, but then if we wait about a minute, I have to click the second button off because we get an echo. So, Christine, I hate this at the beginning of every single show. Okay, but tell me when it starts to echo, because it does that every time. Okay, there's Joy. Okay, well, it will be okay for the first couple minutes, and then it starts to echo, and I have to click the second button off. We go through this every single video. If I knew how to chop this off, I would, but I don't. Without completely, because I have to completely download it to chop this off, and I don't know how to. It's hours worth of work I don't want to spend. So yeah, I'm sorry, those of you who watch the videos later, you have all of this. Is there a sound?
Can you hear me now? Crap beforehand? See, and I just settle in and think, okay, everything's cool, and they'll start in a minute and say there's an echo. And now we have the echo. All right, you shouldn't have an echo now. So, like I said, if we wait 2 minutes, it'll come back to where there's an echo, and I have to click the button off. So, you know, as much as we hated Ustream, the beauty of Ustream is you could chat beforehand. And I could explain all this so we didn't have to sit there. Can you hear me now? Anyway. Frustrating start to today. It hasn't been the best of weeks. So my patience. That's the one thing I noticed from this last year is I'm less able to roll with stuff. I jump to frustration, and I apologize for that. It's just been that kind of a week. And it would have been nice to go smoothly to start. Like I said, it's been a rough week. I've got a wicked sinus headache going on because our weather is changing here. Lovely. I love spring. Really, I do. I have some stuff that I could show you that I've been working on. Whether or not we're going to do a page tonight or just chat here for a few minutes, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It's not so far going well since we're already half an hour in almost, and we're just now getting started. So, anyway, let's see. So I hope all of you have been having a much better week. So I have a cat and a dog in here, and they both just jumped up because the door is closed. So I'm going to have to get up, and let dogs and cats out here momentarily. It's an age thing for Joy. She's losing patience. Yeah, it just gets anyway. So as I said, I hope all of you are having had a good week this week. Just getting up and getting through the week is good these days. So it's good to know that we have at least some hope on the horizon. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to getting to go see my mom, other than through a doorway. So I'm going to go ahead and switch cameras, and I can show you. I have kind of a sneak peek of a paper that I'm working on right now, and I can show you some of the paper and fabric echo dyeing, tea dyeing stuff that I've been doing. It's been a lot of fun. So anyway, let me switch cameras so you don't have to keep looking at the side or back of my head as I'm looking at the chat. Sounds still good? No, my picture just froze. Oh, Lois, that's so sweet of you. Thank you. Trevor, yeah, and Trevor's birthday is on Monday. He turns 23. I can't believe he's 23. Wow. It goes by too fast. Oh, Christine, I'm sorry that your son's gone back to Boulder. Okay, I'm going to have to let the dog out here. He will sit there and bark. Yeah, I got to go let him out. Hang on. I'll be right back. I knew you would do this to me, Tucker. I knew it. I knew it. Yes, I did. I knew you would. All right, okay. Don't go far. Ah, telling that dog not to bark is like telling water not to be wet. Bark, 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 bark. Okay, now my iPad is frozen. Oh, what did I do now? Now I just lost it completely. Well, I'm about to lose it completely. All right, there we go. Okay, so anyway, the paper that I'm working on, it doesn't have a name yet. Oh yeah, time changes on Sunday as well. And this is, like I said, I don't have a name for it yet. I was going for kind of just a kind of bright, sunny, but collagey looking paper. It's got yellows and blues, a little bit of a spot of pink and green as well. And it's not going to show up very well on camera, obviously. So, but this will be a full collection. I'm not sure when it'll be done. Probably depends on how much time I get to work on it. It looks way better in person. That's looking not great on camera, I'll be honest. It really washes it out on camera. But it is kind of soft and watercolory. It's got some daisies and stuff on it. Real kind of sketchy kind of look. But that's what I've got so far. It's there 10. It'll be a full collection. There's 10 pattern papers. I'm not sure yet how many without the sketchy stuff on there, more backgroundy like stuff. And then there'll be 5 accents and then multiple sheets of cut aparts and tags. There'll be a strips of washi tape strips. All of that stuff. So, full collection coming up. Don't have a specific project for it just yet, but anyway, that's where that is. Did you guys want to see some stuff? It's mainly tea-dyed stuff. My boil, toil, and trouble stuff. Bunch of lace, kind of gives lace and ribbons, and they just give a very vintage, dark look. This isn't, truly dyed. This is done with some tea dyes and rust and rusty bits, but just gives them kind of an aged, grungy kind of look. This one I did, it had some leaves and stuff in it, so it came out with it almost came out some fluorescent green on there, some little canvas pieces. So, for the lace and ribbons, that's one little tub. Then this is a stack for like covers and gauzy stuff. So here's all the gauze stuff. So I just have some of that. Like I said, a lot of it's kind of grayish. I'm doing a show. Somebody's knocking. Who is it? I'm doing a show.
Oh, sorry.
Wouldn't be a show without Trevor somehow popping in, whether it's via in person or via text. If you go out, you have to put gas in the car.
How was it going out?
Okay. Well, Chance had wanted to come up and do some laundry, so.
Okay, well, he hasn't texted me, so that's
Okay.
not my problem yet.
Okay. All right, take your cat and go. This is some lightweight. Um, this probably looks really dead here. And as I look at these, I'm going, I think they look really cool because I like the colors to them. But what's fun about what when I used to dye fabrics, and then not with tea, but just actual Procyon dyes and stuff. When I used to do a lot of fabric dyeing, the cool part about fabric dyeing was you really didn't it was controlled, yet it wasn't. And so you came out with some really cool effects that you didn't always know what you were going to get till you got it. You know, you couldn't control it to the point where you could say, oh, this is what it's going to look like. So where I saw these blacks is where I had rusty stuff in tied onto it. But, you know, you can see where like all the little strings were and stuff. So, and I happen to love these really dead, dull, greenish, grayish colors. So I personally think this is just yummalicious, but I know a lot of people go, ooh, that's kind of ugly. So, and these are some canvas pieces. This has had a can lid on it, so it's got a little bit of the rust in there too, but it mainly turns it kind of blackish. So I'll use this for some covers. This is some velvet. I get that I'm almost out of my velvet. They have to open the border. This dyeable velvet, I think it's rayon. It's either silk or rayon. I don't remember which it is. But I get this up in Vancouver. So it's like, I need the border to open, people. So I had rusted some of the Graphic 45 butterflies, and then I used those to where you're layering your papers, some of the rusty bits and stuff in between layers. So this had one of those rusted butterflies stuff that I haven't decided if I like it or not. This one had a fold in it. So here's just some plain cottons. On one of the baths I did, I printed out some of my papers, and I knew this would do this, but I printed out some of my papers and put them in. But because they're inkjet, and I knew it would happen this way, is all of the cyan, yellow, and pink, magenta inks run. And so I got some cool pinks and blues in there. It's hard to see because of that running. So that was kind of cool. This had some little gears, some rusty gears in it. So get some little rusty bits in there. And then I had some of my really badly hand-dyed fabrics from years and years ago. So I put those in there. And they became much more interesting. And some eyelet lace. As I said, the turmeric tea, when I opened a tea bag and sprinkled it, and really chrome yellow stuff in there. Again, this was a gray, not kind of a dead gray, hand dyed from years and years and years ago. So doing this over it kind of gave it some different colors. So these are all kind of bland. See, this is one where I had it up against some of my digital papers that I had printed, and so the black is the only thing that stays of the digital prints. All the ink actually comes off. But this was cool because it gave me some of that subtle coloring in there. So they're kind of boring other than up close because I love this kind of look. Here's some more of those butterflies on some kind of, this is a really kind of rough, I don't know what kind of fabric I call it, but so some of the rusty bits, I mean, this is just the fabric, but the rusty stuff comes off, and it's kind of cool. Mummy wrappings. Yeah, I knew Joy would have some sort of term. So anyway, this is probably pretty boring because this is kind of dead looking stuff. I get it. So, and I will use it for stuff. I love the kind of iridescence this piece of the velvet got. This one has some more of the little yellow. This was some batik stuff, and then I have some buckram. So this is all the fabrics. The fabrics came out kind of bland, but they're cool for what I want to use it for. But the papers actually came out way cooler than I did a bunch of envelopes. These were my I have these envelopes that have a stripe to them. And so, let's have that ripped up a little bit. But they came out really cool. Here's one that I had a bunch of leaves in the sandwich. So you get the little kind of ghosting of the leaves when you stack these up. And then you put them into the boiling tea. But the colors, it's not going to show very well up on camera. But see how you get then these cool striations of the dark? And then I also had some coin envelopes and some tags. And so this coin envelope, because this was folded down, which was that goldenrod color, just transferred some of that color onto the envelope. So it's kind of a cool thing. I get excited about weird stuff. You guys are probably going, okay. Excuse me. I also had, excuse me. I told you it's this time of year. I had some aqua color envelopes in there too, and so they transferred some of their dye color onto things. Again, there's some of the aqua. It's more of the leaves. I didn't even use dye, Deborah. This is all tea. And you look at different kinds of tea, and different kinds of teas will make different kinds of colors. So this is just a tea bath with some rusty stuff thrown into the bottom. If you're at all interested in any kind of eco dyeing, and that's using eco dyeing is using natural products like tea and coffee and plants and spices and all that kind of stuff. There's about, there are 5 billion YouTube videos on doing it. So like there was a tag here, and it had a little red thing on the tag, so it kind of gave a ghost of the tag with a little pink thing on it. So this is like, here's one of those turquoise envelopes, and then it had a ghost leaf on it. It's kind of just cool how it does that. I also, in this one came out really bright. This was bright red, these pieces. These were bright red tissue paper. Totally bright red. And so the ink out of the tissue paper completely leached out, made these cool things. This one, even because this had some rusty stuff by it, I got some really cool colors, but some of that red then leached out on and gave me some pink bits and stuff on the envelopes. This one had some of that turmeric tea, which gives you that really yellow color. And then these are some craft colored envelopes. They didn't take the color. I mean, it's a lot of experimentation. Some things will take the colors more than others do. So, yeah, this is where I love. What I think I love about these is there's such serendipity. Like, I love how these things, with the water kind of leached its way in it, and you get these serendipitous things that you could never create otherwise. And I just find it cool. Here I had some rusty chicken wire stuff on the back side. I did some tags. And you just kind of have to experiment around to see what papers will take things, what envelopes will take things. See, it's got kind of that moire kind of look on it. Isn't that cool? So I think it's fun. Now these coin envelopes gave some great color, but they didn't. Some of them took some color. The ones where it was in the bath, where I had some of my pattern paper printed in there, you get a little bit of color because it's got the inkjet ink, like this one had the inkjet ink got onto it, so it gave you some color. But you don't have any control over the color, and it's going to be pink, yellow, and blue. So if you wanted some other color, you're not going to get it. So can I get some of these? Were smaller. See, this is what was left. This was a printed card, and I put it in. And the only thing that stays on the card is the black. The color all washes off. But I layered it up with some leaves, so you get the, or not leaves, the lace, so it goes some of that lace. And there's this, the serendipitousness of it is what, it's just, it's that, it just totally does what it wants to do. And you don't know until you pull it out what it's going to look like. Like here, there's where You can totally see where that envelope just released all its color. Here's some larger ones. Here I was just experimenting with some oil pastels, and so they resist the colors. That was up against a printed stripe, and the blue came off of the stripe. Here's some with some leaves. There's some better ones with some leaves. There's with that turquoise envelope, and it's kind of weird. There's some more leaves. This one I left, and this was a fern piece. I left this, I had to go out, so I left it in the tea bath, and it was probably a little bit long. I put a red envelope in. I'm not overly fond of the color that came out, but yeah, the ghosting. What I just think is funny is all the layers. You can see it, how they transferred. And the turquoise envelopes, they let go of color, but they didn't grab any themselves. So these were with some eucalyptus. That's what came out with cool. These eucalyptus came out, these really beautiful chartreuse yellow green. It came out really cool looking. Yeah, so that yellow green, it's just so pretty. And eucalyptus, on some papers, eucalyptus will do a kind of red orange, but on this paper it did it in this kind of chrome yellow. So yeah, really kind of cool stuff. Let's see, where's some other good ones I can show you. I was just playing with all sorts of different papers. Oh, here's that some of those rusty butterflies on paste off of some of my pattern papers. But see, at least leaves the only thing it left on there was the black from the. So then I did a bunch of tags too. The tags came out pretty cool. A lot of the tags have some ghostly images on there. I'll definitely use a lot of these. They're fun. So if you're into that kind of ugly grungy color, for what I was just playing with different teas. And I put too much black tea in one of the baths, so it came out very gray. So the next tea I did it a little bit warmer tones. So. But it's fun to play with. It's fun to see what you get. But as I said, you can echo dyeing. There's 5 million YouTube videos. I don't need to do any myself. But yeah, I've done the amount of dyeing over the years. Back when I was in school down in California, my major was interior design, but I had a minor in textiles, and I could still be there perfectly content in that textile program, because we painted all sorts of different fabrics and fibers, and did a squillion different kinds of dyes and all of that kind of stuff. It's dyeing fabrics and stuff. I used to do a lot of that for my quilting. Is a fascinating process, playing with, these natural kinds of things rather than the main thing I used, because I was dyeing a lot of cottons, was Procyon dyes. And you have to soak your fabrics before with what's called a mordant in order for it the dye, because these don't have to be washed, so it doesn't really matter. But if you're going to be using like in a quilt or in clothing, after you dye, it needs all to be set, it needs to be heat set. It needs to be steamed afterwards. It's a lot of hassle. There's different kinds of dyes for cottons and rayons, and then there's different dyes that are used for silks. And we did a lot of silk painting and stamping and stenciling and all that kind of stuff in this program. There's other kinds of dyes that are for Nike fabrics, and it's fascinating, but Um, it's the thing with this kind of dyeing is it's very earthy and rudimentary and doesn't require a lot of, because with the other kinds, you're trying to do it in a controlled fashion, so it's very much a measurements, and you have to wear like a N95 mask, which you can't find right now, and things like that, because the procyan dyes can cause a very significant and severe allergic reaction in some people. And they're very fine particles, so you always have to make sure you're wearing some sort of respirator type of thing when using that. So, just throwing tea bags in a pot is like totally a no-brainer. So, but it was fun. But yeah, looking at them from maybe a different viewpoint. I mean, I'm fascinated. I love them. I'm going to be adding color and adding stuff to them. They're more for background, and so I've just been like, oh my God, these are so gorgeous. But then when I'm looking at them, when I'm showing them, I'm going, yeah, these kind of look a little bit to, I'm sure, the naked eye. Somebody who's not aware of them it's probably looking like mud, but hey. Anyway, it was fun. That's what I did last weekend, was played with that. So, but anyway, on the papers, actually, the papers that I prefer are actually a printmaking paper. For this kind of thing, the toothiness of a watercolor paper, I don't like the way it feels. Whereas the printmaking paper, it can take the abuse. It's a heavier weight, but it's to the touch. I think it's got a lot more clay in the base of it, so it has almost a suede-like texture to it. Whereas a watercolor paper tends to be a little bit more toothy. And then some of those papers were just mixed media papers. There's a couple watercolors. But that's the thing, is when you're playing with something like this, you can afford to just experiment, because the thing of tea is not that expensive. So, and you can see some of my pictures on my Instagram where I had it tied up. My daughter says, "What kind of voodoo bleep are you doing here, Mom?" And Trevor goes, "So, Mom, are you muling drugs now?" Because it's all tied up, with fabric wrapped around it and stuff. So, you can see where my kids' minds went, but they're so used to Mom doing all sorts of weird, crazy stuff. So, but I have fun, and to be perfectly honest, that was the most important part. So, anyway, now that I've bored at least 10 of you have left while I showed that, so sorry about that. Anyway, where we were, the Past Adventures album, which this is what happens to me many times when I'm doing these projects, when we're doing them on the live streams, is I don't work on it other than during the live streams, and I get to the point where it's like, I just want to get it done. I don't want to do this in this, slow pace, and that's why it has always worked better for me to just do a few pages, and then we move on to another project, and I can finish this off camera. Because this kind of method, I get frustrated with it, because I'm ready to move on to another project already. So, which is why I have a hard time doing like 20. I know there's many YouTubers who do like 20-part live stream or videos showing every nitnoid in detail of an album, but no, my brain doesn't last that long with it. So, I guess the question is okay, do we want to keep going on with this one? I've shown you a few things. Do you want me to just finish it up and show you the project at the end? I don't have another project necessarily set up just yet, but I will here in the near future. Yeah, in terms of dyeing, people are talking about dyeing. Beets work great. Avocado pits, but I've had better success with avocado skins. And what you do whenever you use an avocado, just keep the skin, put it in the freezer till you've got a whole bunch of them. And avocado skins actually gives you a really pretty soft pink color, a kind of a mauve pink color of dye. Um, red onion skins work great. Um, they add some cool color. I found that a blueberry tea, it was hard to find and it was expensive, but it gave a really cool purple color um, that I did several weeks ago. Let's see, what are some other things that um, red cabbage also will give you some cool color. Um, yeah, there's a whole thing. Yeah, like I said, avocado. I just don't have great success with the pits. I had a much better success with the skins. So, I'm getting something out here. I've also been starting to play. We'll come back to this. Hang on a sec. I've also have gotten. I got this up in Vancouver, so it was like a year and a half ago up in Vancouver. There's an awesome Mawas up in Vancouver that has a lot of natural dyes. This is some natural pigments. You can turn these into or acrylic mediums. So and I have found some place where I'm planning to order from that that she makes watercolors that are all made from natural stone and earth pigments that are totally cool. So, but these are all very natural colors. One of the things you can use as a mordant is these are soybean. These aren't soybeans. I don't think. You make what's called a soy milk. That is dry. These are dried soybeans, and you soak these like for 24 hours, and then you take the beans, the soybeans themselves out, and soy milk. It's not like soy. You can't go buy the soy milk in the store. It's a different thing. But then you soak your fabric in this, and then it helps the fabric. It opens the pores of the natural fabrics, to accept the natural dyes. There's all sorts of different, depending on the kinds of dyes, there's different kinds of mordants. But I played with these a little bit, making them, adding them to just gel mediums and stuff of acrylics. So it's kind of fun stuff to do. So these are some of the things I want to use on some of those papers as well, just to make some kind of earthy kinds of things. So, but I know you guys like the more refined and colorful stuff, so I kind of keep that for my own stuff. So, but yeah, no, if you can go online, and there's tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of information about different kinds of natural dyes using vegetables and fruits and vegetables and natural things, and it'll tell you the colors that you will create, because it really comes the colors vary. Also, it depends on the kinds of, whether you're using fabrics, papers, that kind of thing, what the content is of them. For instance, silks and natural fibers always will take it better than polyester and nylon. Unless you are using a dye that's specific for them, you're gonna be disappointed. And a cotton poly blend, you'll have problems with. It'll come out very pale. Wool really loves to be dyed. It just sucks up the color. But it's harder to dye because many times it will felt it, so it'll shrink it. So, but wool loves dye. Cotton and rayon. Rayon is a viscous. It's also a natural fabric. So those are the four main ones that you can work with when you're dyeing stuff. And it'll all take the dye differently. So, but yeah, there's tons. If you're at all interested in it, there's tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff on the internet. whether you're into watching the videos or reading about it. So there's a bunch of Pinterest stuff, lots of stuff to find. But yeah, it's fun and fascinating. And biggest thing you want to do is whenever you're doing something like I have a 20 quart. I think it's 20 quarts. Might be even bigger than that. It might be 30 quarts. It's about this big around pot that I do all of this kind of dyeing in. You don't want to use anything you're using for that kind of thing, even if you are using natural dye stuff. You don't want to use it then for cooking. So you can go to kind of a thrift store, Goodwill, or someplace like that. And I went to Home Goods, which is kind of like the Marshalls of home decor stuff. And that's where I got this big pot at. Because you don't want to use stuff that you're going to use for cooking, for food. So you always want to use pots and utensils that are very specific to what you're doing. So anyway, as I started working on some projects with those papers and fabrics and stuff, obviously I will share them with you. It's just I just find it fascinating and fun. I think it satisfies that science bent that I've always had. It satisfies that and combines it with my creative person inside of me. So anyway, alrighty guys. Well, since we're here, so in terms of this project, as I said, and what I either get from all of you is I get either silence or you do what you want, and that doesn't help me. I mean, I know there's a lot of other designers that take a project from page 1 to page the end, including the tiny little thing on either the live shows or on it's closing in on 11, 12 years now, and I haven't. I've always just done a few pages, and then when I finish it, I show you. A lot of times I don't, and I get that. But I also do that to kind of push you guys out of the nest a little bit. It's the way I've always been. Do you guys miss that? Do you wish that I actually took a project from soup to nuts? Bye, Lois. Thank you, sweetheart, for coming. I always appreciate it. I'm sorry it's always so late for you. Yes, stay safe. Now, Lois, I hope you're getting... No, I'm not even going to talk about that. Never mind. I hope you're doing well. This is the hardest part, is waiting. I ask a question and it's... I like you to do about half the album. I don't usually do that, but I get ideas. Signatures. Oh yeah, the signatures would be really easy. They're not complicated on this one because I did most of the work with the paper. If you're using one of the paper collections that has signatures in them, they're super easy because you have the paper that's for the signature for the cover, and you print on the back side as well. So you do it both sides. And then it has the papers that you do the same way. Now I did this on a cardstock weight, and this is on just a regular paperweight. This is actually on copier paper. The 3D projects, yes, Joyce says she thinks the 3D projects need the soup to nuts, and I agree. And I generally do on the if you think back over the years, generally on the 3D projects, I do take them from soup to nuts. That I, especially an album that goes with a 3D project, we would be doing that for the next. When I'm working on these, I get caught up in the little details and stuff. I get probably far too fussy. So, but anyway, but Candy wanted to see how the signatures put together. So the papers, I do it with the same on both sides. You could do it with different on the two sides, but I do print them on the both sides. You could use plain paper too. You don't have to use the printed paper. I just put 3 sheets in there. That gives you 6 pages. If you want more than that, you can obviously do more than that. So, and they just get, there's a number of ways that you can bind those in there. You can stitch them in if you want to stitch along that fold line with a sewing machine. You can do that, but you can also stitch it with some cording or something like that. Did I do any of these? No. So that's another option of what you can do. And there's actually a nifty tool that's out nowadays, because the stitched albums is the in thing right now. So, it's like everything old, and I mean really old, ancient, is new again. So we are memory keepers, always want to jump on the bandwagon of what's popular, has come out with a tool for doing some of these stitched bindings. So, and it's got this section here that's got this row down the middle, and it's at a slight V. There's all sorts of bookbinding tools. This kind of bookbinding has been around since forever. Since just past papyrus, since paper's been around, this signature, and then you can stack all sorts of signatures together. If you look at an old book, when it's actually, if you look at traditional bookbinding, you could, and this isn't going to show up on camera, but if you look up at the spine right here, this is a series of signatures that are all put together. Now, in more recent times, they're glued up at that top where you put all these. Here, let's just pull all these out. These signatures are all stacked together for if you're making a book. They're all stacked tightly together, and then those they're pressed all together. You have a thing that cranks down, and they're all pressed together, and there's a specific glue that is used that glues those all together. That's got some flexibility, and otherwise they can also be the different other. So there's all sorts of ways of tying them together as well, but to form the pages of a book. But if you're wanting to just make a small little tied signature, I've got one in my 100-day project. So these are from my 100-day project, to where it's just tied on the spine, and it's tied through the center. So, and that puts all these pages in there, so they're like a book. Okay, this kind of binding has been around forever. So here, this is a long type one. You can see where the center is. It punches holes, and it comes out and ties right there. When you look at the signature, how they're nesting in on each other, this was the inspiration, and I said this, I've told you guys this for years and years. Start as like taking a signature piece like this from a very, 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 very traditional bookbinding method. But I was like, early on when we were all doing these mini albums with rings, and they would all just do this big, fan out from where they were bound with the rings, because we had so much junk on the pages and flaps and all that kind of stuff. So it was like, well, how can I get the pages so I don't get this big fan out? How can we use, something that puts space? And that's how Stack the Deck came about. Instead of being pages nesting in on themselves this way, so what if they came in a U shape and hooked onto each other so that we had spaces between them? So this nesting pages, because I wanted space between my pages, became Stack the Deck. And that's where the inspiration for Stack the Deck came from, which is why I've said for years upon years upon years upon years, nothing is really new. It's just reinventing it and using it in a different way to fit what you need it for. And that's why my bindings, since time began, for me, I've presented them as free to use. I don't, they're included in my patterns, but I don't demand that you buy the tutorial in order to know how to do the binding, because there really is, honestly, truly nothing new. It's just all variations on the same sort of thing. But in order to get this kind of a binding, you're punching holes. And that's where this tool comes in as an easier way to figure out your spacing of those holes. So you're going to fold all your papers, crease them together, and then this fold is going to go on into this little ditch. A traditional bookbinder is a deep V, and then it's got holes in it, and you punch the holes. So that's very traditional. This is super simple and easy to use. These are extra ones for doing additional outside of the actual more of a stop binding where you're attached together and then how it stitches onto the cover. You can go online and see 5 billion videos on doing stitched bindings as well. I've never done stitched bindings for the most. I think I did a stitched binding on 1 or 2 of the Birdhouse albums. But generally, because they are such a traditional binding, and there's been so many of them over the last centuries, I haven't felt the need to do a stitch binding, but it's the hot thing right now with the journals, so I should have done it, but I didn't. So anyway, stitch with that angle in there, and then this sets over the top and screws in, and I have it centered. Now I marked the center on mine with my Sharpie, just like I marked the center on the scoreboard when I first got that. So it just helps you to kind of from the center. And then it comes with a stylus. I have my own stylus. But you then can punch whether you want to do like this one. I did 3 sections where it's tied on the outside, or you can do one longer one like I did on this one where it's longer. And then you just need a needle, kind of a tapestry type needle. Now with this, you do get these little tools. So it comes with a stylus to punch. It also comes with some wax thread and some tapestry needle. Sometimes the curved one, if you're doing different kinds of binding, you can use a curved needle. I just use a straight tapestry needle, and you thread. For traditional bookbinding, it's a wax thread. But I just use, on these kind of things, I just use the decorative cord or thread. But you just punch, I don't know what spacing I want, so I'm not actually punching those, but you just punch the holes, and using the thread or cord through the tapestry type needle, you feed it through. But the beauty of this is it sandwiches all of your papers together, and that way your holes are all registered. It aligned up perfectly, whereas this gives you this cool alignment. But we are memory keepers. I got the thing because I feed for the chat. I'm not freezing on the thing, so it's a Yeah, I'm not. It's Friday nights are a weird thing, so who knows what might be going on. So, but these are a cool tool. I think it was like $18, $19 for this. But if you want to do if you want to do any of these kinds of bindings, it's a handy tool, but not absolutely necessary. You can also just do it by marking it, stack them and marking it, um, and punching them. So, but you know what, we are memory keepers is really good about being on top of what's hot and coming out with a tool for it. Well, so anyway, did that help you at all there, Candy, for how those signatures do it just like I. And if it sounds like everybody's having the same sort of problem, we only have about 45 minutes left, which is not enough time to do a whole page. But I'm having the issue. Everybody sounds like they're having the same issue, and yet my stream is going out uninterrupted, so the video should be fine. So this constant stopping and starting, and maybe we'll just cut it a little bit short. You want to see a sneak peek of the 3D project that I have coming up? Maybe we'll show that. Always happy to help out. Oh, and then the other way that I'm actually gonna do a challenge using this method. I'm gonna do a video showing a way to do this to where you can have a thicker book. But I do have the video out for doing this quick little binding. You know, it's a book-like binding. You can do this sort of signature as well. You just put this end into the pocket and have this end on the outside. But there is a video for my binder clip binding that you can watch as well. So there's not a whole lot to show of this one. I'm doing a new carriage, and I'm doing it a lot more papering the carriage, but I'm not going to spill what that's going to be just yet. But it'll be cute. So Pam knows you can't say anything. Yeah, you spammed me, Alexa. It was like, whoa, what happened here? It's like, oh, Alexa found my Instagram. Oh, they also have these fun foam things for doing cosplay stuff. So I found these. I know I've seen them at Joann's and Hobby Lobby both have, but it's fun foam for cosplay, so you can use that. And this has got some foam on it as well, and I just gessoed over the top of it. I'm still working out how textury and all that kind of thing I want to do this, but I think it's going to be a fun little project. And then it's got a flat top, so it's going to have a little kind of spring garden with mushrooms and fairy stuff, because this is part of my fairy stuff. I've had people asking for another carriage. Like I have the gypsy carriage, I have the Halloween one, so carriage parts. And I can't do a 3D without having an album. So there's going to be an album that goes inside. It's not going to be a huge album. I mean, the base is it's like 4 inches. So it's going to be a tall, skinny album, 2.5 by 4 by about 8.5. So it'll have an album / journal kind of thing and it's got some other parts that are going to go on it. But I've taken and I did some wire down into the joint here. And then I've used tissue paper and kind of paper mache with some matte medium just to give the corners a softer rounded edge and stuff. So it's going to be a little bit more paper mache, mixed media. I hate to use the term mixed media because that freaks some of you out, even though the fact is, over the years, we've done mixed media without calling it mixed media. If you think about the Autumn Fairy House, we did paper mache for the stump, things like that. I just didn't tell you it was mixed media because the mixed media stuff like I said, it panics some people. So, um, but nothing complicated. I've used gesso, tissue paper, and matte medium so far total. So it's not complicated. Um, I haven't gotten very far. Had this out for a couple weeks, but I haven't gotten very. It'll be a fun project to work on. So that's something coming up. And I'm breaking my rules. I'm not supposed to show things until I have them ready to go, but I'm bad. I have no patience, and I have to show y'all. Anyway, but if there's any kind of projects that you or repeat or update, because you know that I never take a project that we redo and leave it the way I have the pattern written and we make it straight from the pattern. I always modify it, but I can also be talked into making a project that we've done in the past or an album we've done in the past. Because I'd much rather do the kinds of things that you guys want to do. If you're more into wanting me to do 3D, if you're more into wanting me to do albums, I'm comfortable with either one, but decision making is not my strength. And I'd much rather, like I said, be doing things, the kinds of projects you would like to be doing. The rules are made to be broken, and I tend to do that. It's funny, I keep tripping across things as I'm looking for something else, and I find something that I had forgotten about. It's like I posted on Instagram a while back as I was looking for something else, and I found all my papers from my very first CHA when I did those projects for Tim's booth and the videos and stuff like that. And it was pretty funny finding all that stuff. And I'd look for something else and I'll find those kinds of things, or find an album project, and it's like, oh, I forgot about this one. It's fun to have some of those kind of, excuse me, memory lane kind of things. So anyway, so if there's ever a project that you want, my husband and son out talking to the neighbors in back. So yeah, I know a lot of you like 3D. 3D. There weren't very many of us. And everybody and their brother is doing albums. Everybody and their brother is doing journals and tied things and all of that kind of stuff. The Troll Bridge. I don't know. That one's big. My problem is the biggest thing I get from a lot of people is they don't want the 3D stuff to be big because they're run. So the Troll Bridge was a fun one, but it is one of the bigger projects. So that one, so of course you give me a suggestion and I shoot it down. Towards doing more 3D, just because there aren't as many people doing the 3D stuff. It's kind of my little niche. And it's one of those things, I just don't want to put a lot of the time and effort. But I put time and effort and then have things go nowhere, and it's like it gets very discouraging. So, but if you guys are more interested in doing that, a little toll bridge. I'll have to think on that a bit, Alexa, to see what I could potentially come up with. Especially if I can relate it to a lot of my fairy type of stuff. I'm going through this whole thing is I have this whole series already cooked up. I have tons of notes and sketches for a whole bunch of fairy stuff. And I've thought about doing that kind of as a separate thing, as almost a separate subscription type of thing, to where I haven't come up with exactly how I want to do it. And so that has potential project. Uh, another half hour.
That's why you wouldn't be interrupted.
Yeah. Well, you're interrupting.
Well, that's why I don't interrupt again.
Okay. Pam, you're outing me. I've talked to you about doing something like that. So anyway, I'll think on it, but it sounds openness to the 3D type of projects, and so I think part of the reason I've also avoided the 3Ds is the 3D projects people tend to want the kits, and I'm not ready to go there yet. Not quite ready. Um, Even if I was 100% everything was all caught up, I don't know if I want to go. If there was, if there was a way somebody else packed and shipped them, hey, no problem. But yeah. So, yep, Trevor pops in again. So, anyway, well, since we're this late at this point, it's kind of crazy to start a new page, and I will try to work on it during this week. This week should be a lot calmer than this past week, and I should be able to get a little bit more done. So, but one of the things I have learned that is if life is happening, rather than trying to just push myself beyond my limit in order to get it all done, it's better to just step back, do what stuff I have to do, and then come back to this. And that's kind of the way I'm moving forward with things, and it's better for my brain. Yes, you do. Pamela, that house. I would call that more of a significant story in your house. I go to her house and I got everything I need. Absolutely, without a doubt, pretty much anything and everything I need, and in multiples. Far more than I do. Yeah, I'll look at more into doing the 3D stuff, because I mean, if that's I'm open to either way. I just, I do a 3D and that doesn't go anywhere. So okay, well, we'll do an album and that doesn't go as well either. So stuff out there versus when I started. There's so many more people out there doing so many more different projects. It's just unfairly it gets any kind of large group of following, just because there's so many more people out there than there ever used to be. So, and so my biggest thing is more that, and I'm not talking about, oh, it doesn't go anywhere in terms of how it benefits me. I'm talking about, I don't want to do things that are projects. I want to do projects that are what people are interested in, rather than doing projects that I'm interested in showing you, but then finding out that you're not interested. That's how I mean by it goes nowhere, is if you're not interested in it, I don't want to do those. I want to do what people are interested in. Is that, I believe it. So, anyway, I think we're going to end a little bit early today. It ended up just being a listen to me blather and show a few things more than anything. So, but one of the things I was thinking about now, since I showed you the 3D project, one of the things I was thinking about was this paper would potentially work for the that goes inside of the carriage. Don't hold me to that, because I may change my mind. I may change and do so, because I also have another fairy project in mind that may push ahead of the carriage. But this paper was more thought of as potentially being for a album/journal that goes inside of a 3D project. So you guys have files and stuff. Crafting, as I've talked about to several people, crafting is very cyclical. Um, it varies. Like right now, a lot of the cricket type of stuff, but not for paper crafting type of cricket. It's more the vinyl and that kind of thing, or the cups and mugs and um, those kinds of things. And then in terms of any kind of paper crafting, it's a lot more art journaling, and that sort of thing is more the direction that paper crafts are going. So because people keep their photos on their phone, they're going to wish they had it in other ways of displaying them, and it'll cycle back around. You know, scrapbooking, the way crafting works, it's cyclical, and it all comes back again. Quilting does the same thing. Quilting gets hot and then it cools off, and then it gets hot again and then it cools off. So paper crafting, so all of these things, they cycle around, and it all comes back again. That's the kind of thing is if you lose a phone or something like that, you lose all those photos. And I just look at when my in-laws passed, where my husband, he would go to those photo albums. I'm not so much as that, which is ironic given what I do, because like most of my childhood, etc., is all on slides. So we're gonna eventually get some converter for the slides so I can get actual photos. But there's all these albums I have in this room, and vast majority of no pictures in them. And I think that's why I'm the whole art journal, photo journal, all these journal kind of, but making just a beautiful, and I'm just going to call it an album, making a beautiful album with not necessarily the photos in there, but because you love the paper or the embellishments, and you can do that process of creating it than it is the finished product. And I think that's the more direction. I think a lot of the things that are going to go inside my 3D project, but more of a visual journal and meaning and color and a lot of this. And what really got me started was church stuff, and it's been really exciting in the last week or so. And this is, as I St. Patrick's Day, that I've gone into. With now I have the knowledge that I have a great grandmother who was from Northern Ireland. I hadn't known that my entire life. Now, the English, the other this is really funny. The least information I have on my actual grandparents were my father's parents. But through my grandmother's mother, England and Scotland, connections all the way back to that. And then my father's mother's mother, or my father's mother, the two grandmothers on my father's side, so I always thought, the red hair came from all the British and Scottish, which it probably did, but then I also have this whole branch now that's from Ireland. So, I always claimed to be Irish when I was in elementary school during St. Patrick's Day, so kids couldn't pinch me and they believed me because I had red hair. Well, I was telling the truth. So, anyway, I'm going to let you guys all go. Sometimes this is just how it all works out, that we think so much of that connection to people, even if it is, an old connection that we've had for a long time and we all live all over the world. But I think we all crave that connecting to each other. And I think that's why I've gotten into I'm getting back into the groove of doing a show every Friday, even when I don't want to, I'm doing one. So, and I think just letting us keep connecting is always a good thing. So anyway, yeah, the lag is making me crazy too. So, and I think that's part of the reason why I decided let's just skip doing something, because it's just too hard with the lag and the spinning circle. So anyway, I'm going to let you guys all go, and I hope you have an amazing next Friday. Thank you as always to Joy for stepping up and stepping in and helping me out, and Lois, if you're watching this back.